Have you ever wondered what happens in the exact moment a choice is made and why you're the one experiencing this specific reality? It is a gentle question, one that often arrives in the quiet silence of the night, when the world has slowed down and your mind is left to wander through the vast corridors of possibility. We walk through our lives feeling a profound sense of continuity, a comforting certainty that the ground beneath our feet is solid, that the past is fixed, and that tomorrow will follow today in a predictable, unbroken line. But what if I told you that this comforting, continuous reality might just be an illusion, a magnificent trick played on us by the microscopic rules of the universe? This is not a philosophical riddle or a flight of pure imagination. It is a mystery grounded in the absolute rigor of quantum mechanics, a branch of physics that challenges everything we think we know about existence, life, and the boundary we call death. As we embark on this quiet journey together, I invite you to leave behind the familiar certainties of the everyday world. We are going to explore a theory so profound, so existentially terrifying, yet strangely beautiful, that it breaks the very concept of mortality. We are going to look into the infinite mirror of quantum immortality. To understand this mystery, we must first look up at the night sky, and then look deep within ourselves, bridging the gap between the cosmic and the microscopic. When we look out into the cosmos, we see a universe of staggering proportions. Astronomers estimate that there are around 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Each of those galaxies, much like the ancient giants hiding in the dark, contains billions or even trillions of stars. The scale is so immense that our human brains struggle to truly grasp the mathematics of such a reality. We feel infinitesimally small, fragile, and temporary against the backdrop of 14 billion years of cosmic history. We are born, we live our brief lives, and we pass away, returning our atoms to the star stuff from which we were forged. This is the natural order we have accepted since the dawn of human consciousness. Death is the grand equalizer, the final silence that awaits every living being in the cosmos. But the rules that govern the massive galaxies and the burning stars are classical rules. When we zoom in, past the cells of our bodies, down to the fundamental particles that construct reality itself, those comforting classical rules completely fall apart. Welcome to the quantum realm, a place where the universe reveals its most closely guarded secrets. Down at the level of atoms, electrons, and photons, reality does not behave like the solid world we navigate every day. In the classical world, a ball thrown into the air follows a precise arc. It has a specific location and speed at any given moment. But in the gentle, microscopic world of quantum mechanics, particles do not possess such definitive properties until they are actively observed. Instead of being in one place at one time, an unobserved particle exists in a haze of probabilities, a state known as quantum superposition. Imagine a spinning coin. While it is spinning in the air, blurring into a sphere of silver, is it heads or is it tails? In our macroscopic world, it is simply a coin moving too fast for our eyes to track. In the quantum world, however, the spinning coin is literally both heads and tails at the exact same time. It exists in all possible states simultaneously, suspended in a state of pure, infinite potential. It is only when the coin lands, or when an observer actively looks at it, that the universe forces the coin to decide. The superposition collapses, and a single reality solidifies from the mist of possibilities. This is not merely a theoretical curiosity. It is a proven characteristic of the universe, demonstrated time and time again through rigorous scientific experimentation. The most famous of these is the double-slit experiment, a cornerstone of physics that has baffled the greatest minds for over 100 years. When scientists fire individual particles of light at a barrier with two tiny slits, something impossible happens. If the scientists do not measure which slit the photon goes through, the single particle acts like a wave passing through both slits at the exact same time and creating a complex interference pattern on the wall behind them. But the moment the scientists place a detector at the slits to observe the photon's path, the magic vanishes. The photon acts like a solid little bullet, passing through only one slit or the other. The mere act of observation, the quiet gaze of consciousness or a measuring device, fundamentally alters the physical outcome of reality. The universe changes its behavior simply because we are watching. This brings us to a profound and unsettling realization. If the fundamental building blocks of our reality exist in a state of suspended multiple possibilities until they are observed, what does that mean for the observer? What does that mean for you and me? In the 1930s, the brilliant physicist Erwin Schrödinger proposed a thought experiment to highlight the absurdity of this quantum behavior when scaled up to our everyday world. He imagined a closed steel box. Inside this dark, quiet chamber, he placed a cat, a tiny amount of a radioactive substance, a Geiger counter, a vial of poison gas, and a hammer. The setup was elegantly simple. The radioactive substance has a 50% chance of decaying within 1 hour. If it decays, the Geiger counter detects it, triggers the hammer, breaks the vial, and the cat perishes. If the atom does not decay, the vial remains intact, and the cat lives, according to the strict rules of quantum mechanics, until the hour is up and someone opens the box to observe the outcome. The radioactive atom is in a state of superposition. It has both decayed and not decayed. Because the fate of the cat is directly tied to the state of that single quantum atom, the cat must also be in a state of superposition. In the silent darkness of the closed box, the cat is simultaneously completely alive and completely dead. It is a paradox that strains the limits of human imagination. Schrödinger created this puzzle to show how flawed our understanding of reality becomes when quantum rules collide with macroscopic existence. How can a conscious living creature be suspended between life and death? When exactly does the universe make its choice? Does reality only become real when a human opens the box and looks inside? For decades, scientists wrestled with this mystery, trying to find a way to reconcile the haze of quantum possibility with the solid, definitive world we wake up to every morning. They searched for the mechanism that collapses the wave of possibilities into a single, concrete outcome. But in the mid-20th century, a young, brilliant physicist named Hugh Everett proposed an entirely different answer, one that would echo through the vast halls of theoretical physics and completely rewrite the narrative of human existence. What if, Everett asked, the superposition never actually collapses? What if the universe never makes a choice? Instead of the universe forcing the coin to be either heads or tails, what if both outcomes actually happen, just not in the same reality? When the hour is up and the box is opened, Everett's theory suggests that reality simply splits. The universe divides into two separate, equally real branches. In one branch, the observer opens the box and finds a living cat. In the other, newly created branch, an identical observer opens the box and finds that the cat has passed away. Both observers are real. Both experiences are valid. Both universes now exist side by side, completely unaware of each other, branching out into the infinite cosmic dark. This is the birth of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It is a theory that suggests we live in a multiverse of unimaginable vastness. Every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, the entire universe splits to accommodate every single possibility. Every choice you have ever made, every path you have ever walked, every near miss and every lucky break has spawned an entirely new universe. There is a reality where you turned left instead of right. The implications are staggering, a quiet cascade of infinite realities expanding outward like ripples on a cosmic pond. It challenges our deepest beliefs about destiny, uniqueness, and the nature of time. If everything that can happen does happen in some branch of reality, then the concept of a single, linear life is nothing more than an illusion created by our consciousness traveling down one specific path through an endlessly branching forest of worlds. As we prepare to venture deeper into this labyrinth of existence in the chapters to come, we will confront the terrifying question of what happens when one of those branching paths involves the end of your own life, and why, mathematically, your journey of observation might never truly cease. Have you ever considered what it truly means to experience the present moment? You are here, listening to these words, feeling the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. Your consciousness feels like a singular, unbroken flame illuminating the dark corridors of your mind. But as we journey deeper into the mystery of the many worlds interpretation, we must ask an unsettling question. If the universe splits into branching realities with every quantum event, what happens to you? In the previous chapter, we left Erwin Schrödinger's hypothetical cat resting in a dark, silent box, existing in a state of suspended possibility until an external observer opened the lid. But what if we change the perspective? What if, instead of being the person opening the box, you are the one sitting inside it? In the late 1990s, physicist Max Tegmark proposed a thought experiment designed to test the ultimate limits of Hugh Everett's branching universes. It pushes the boundaries of our intellectual safety, venturing into a territory where physics and existential philosophy intertwine in a gentle but terrifying embrace. He called it the quantum suicide experiment. Imagine a researcher driven by an insatiable curiosity about the infinite universe, sitting in a quiet laboratory. Beside them is a machine governed entirely by a single quantum event, such as the spin of a subatomic particle. This quantum particle is in perfect superposition. It has a 50% chance of spinning up and a 50% chance of spinning down. The machine is connected to a weapon aimed at the researcher. If the particle spins up, the weapon fires instantly, ending the researcher's life so quickly that their brain would never register the event. If the particle spins down, the machine emits a soft, harmless click, and the researcher continues to live. The researcher presses the button. According to the classical view of reality, they have a 50% chance of surviving. If they press it again, their chances drop to 25%. To an external observer watching from behind safety glass, the outcome is inevitably tragic. Eventually, the machine will fire, and the researcher will pass away, rejoining the silent dust of the ancient earth. But we must remember the quiet revelation of the many worlds interpretation. The universe does not make a choice. It simply splits. When the researcher presses the button, reality divides into two equally valid, separate branches. In one branch, the particle spins up, the machine fires, and the researcher's journey in that specific universe comes to a sudden end. The external observer in that reality mourns their loss. However, In the other branch of reality, the particle spins down. The machine emits a soft click. The researcher opens their eyes, takes a deep breath, and realizes they are perfectly alive. Now, we must consider the subjective experience of the researcher themselves. Consciousness can only exist where it is capable of perceiving. You cannot experience nothingness. You cannot be aware of your own absence. Therefore, the researcher's subjective stream of consciousness can only flow down the branch of reality where they survive. From the perspective of the external observer, the researcher might die on the first or second attempt. But from the internal perspective of the researcher pressing the button, they will hear a click. Then they will press it again and hear another click. They could press the button 100 times. In the vast infinite branching of the multiverse, there is always at least one reality where the quantum coin lands in their favor every single time. From the researcher's point of view, they will never see the weapon fire. They will only ever experience a miraculous streak of luck. They will sit in that quiet room, listening to a symphony of harmless clicks, realizing with awe that they have become immortal. This is quantum immortality. It posits that because your consciousness can only follow paths where it continues to function, you will always find yourself in a universe where you survive. The cosmos may branch infinitely, creating countless realities where you perish from accidents, illnesses, or the slow passage of time. But your subjective awareness will simply glide past those dead ends, seamlessly transferring to the branches where a doctor finds a cure, where the car swerves just in time, or where the quantum machine simply clicks. This gentle but earth-shattering concept forces us to reevaluate our relationship with death. We are accustomed to thinking of life as a fragile thread, easily snapped by the random, chaotic forces of a vast, indifferent universe. But quantum immortality suggests a different narrative. It implies that, from your subjective viewpoint, the thread of your consciousness is unbreakable. You are tethered to the infinite tree of realities, and your mind will always naturally prune the branches of non-existence, seeking the sunlight of continuous experience. You are, in a very strange, quantum mechanical sense, a permanent fixture of the cosmos. Yet, this infinite journey is not necessarily a comforting one. The immortality offered by the quantum multiverse is not eternal youth. It is simply the persistence of consciousness. If you fall gravely ill, you might survive in a reality where the disease progresses but never quite extinguishes your awareness. Your consciousness would be forced down increasingly narrow, highly improbable branches of reality just to keep the flame burning. The thought of an endlessly aging consciousness, trapped in a branching path of ultimate survival, but perhaps intense fragility, brings a new dimension of mystery and subtle terror to the wonder of the multiverse. It forces us to contemplate what it truly means to endure within a reality that physically decays over billions of years. It is crucial to remember the immense scale of what we are discussing. We are not just talking about an isolated laboratory experiment. We are talking about every microscopic interaction in the entire physical universe. Every time an electron shifts its microscopic orbit within your DNA, the universe is splitting. You are continuously navigating a cosmic labyrinth with billions of tiny forks in the road every single second. The reality you are experiencing right now is just one infinitesimally thin slice of a majestic, infinitely thick structure of existence. You are here because out of countless possible realities, this is the one where your unique stream of consciousness currently flows. Think about the narrow escapes in your personal timeline, the times you avoided a disastrous accident, the moment you recovered from a severe illness, or the unlikely chain of historical events that led to your birth. In a classical universe, you are simply the fortunate beneficiary of astronomical luck. But in the many worlds interpretation, there is no luck. Everything that can physically happen absolutely does happen. You survived that near miss because your mind can only perceive the universe where you survived. In countless other branches, the accident happened and the illness won. The universe is filled with the vast silence of paths not taken, but your mind is an eternal traveler that can only walk where there is solid ground beneath its feet. But as we look out into the quiet night sky, we must confront another layer of this beautiful mystery. If quantum immortality is real, why do we continually see other people pass away? The answer lies in the deeply personal, subjective nature of consciousness itself. You only have guaranteed survival in your own subjective reality. To external observers, you are merely a physical object subject to classical laws of probability. If you engage in the quantum suicide experiment, you will survive from your internal perspective, but you will perish in almost every reality observed by your friends and family. Their consciousness will quietly continue down a branch where your physical presence is gone forever. The infinite journey of the observer is ultimately a solitary one. We are walking side by side through the vast garden of branching paths, but we are not permanently tethered to each other. At every quantum crossroads, the versions of the people you cherish most might split away into realities where they succumb to the natural laws of probability, leaving you behind in the specific branch where your own consciousness stubbornly survives. You will witness the end of others, even as your own subjective timeline stretches endlessly forward into the terrifying unknown. It is a profound, melancholic beauty, a realization that the cosmos gently grants us the magnificent gift of infinite experience, but demands that we endure the powerful illusion of loss along the way. As we absorb the tremendous weight of this scientific revelation, we are left standing quietly on the edge of an intellectual precipice. The human fear of absolute non-existence has been replaced by the awe-inspiring prospect of an endless journey. But if our consciousness is destined to endlessly navigate the improbable paths of survival, what is the ultimate destination? Does the universe eventually run out of viable branches? What happens when the physical cosmos itself begins to age, when the burning stars burn out, and the majestic galaxies slowly fade into the silent dark? How does quantum immortality interact with the deep time of our 14-billion-year-old universe, and the unfathomable trillions of years yet to come? These are the profound questions we must gently carry with us as we step further into the mystery. Have you ever sat quietly in a darkened room, listening to the gentle, rhythmic ticking of a clock, and felt the absolute, unavoidable weight of time slipping away? It is a profoundly human sensation, this awareness of the fleeting nature of our moments. We measure our lives in years, in decades, perhaps a century if we are fortunate. We are temporary travelers on an ancient planet surrounded by the vast and silent cosmos. But as we continue our journey into the deep, unsettling mystery of quantum immortality, we must ask what happens when the gentle ticking of that clock stretches out, not just for a human lifetime, but for the entire lifespan of the universe itself. If your consciousness is truly tethered to the branching realities of the multiverse, refusing to be extinguished, how does it navigate the ultimate decay of physical reality? To understand this terrifying and beautiful paradox, we must first look at the grand timeline of the cosmos, moving far beyond the comforting scale of our everyday lives and venturing into the unfathomable depths of deep time. Astronomers and astrophysicists, peering through the magnificent lenses of space telescopes operated by agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency, have carefully measured the current age of our universe at roughly 14 billion years. In the context of human history, 14 billion years is an eternity. It encompasses the birth of the first stars, the formation of the majestic galaxies, the fiery birth of our own solar system, and the slow, miraculous evolution of life on Earth. Yet, in the grand infinite calendar of the cosmos, 14 billion years is merely the opening second of a very long, quiet day. We currently live in what scientists call the stelliferous era, a vibrant, energetic epoch defined by the brilliant light of burning stars. Our night sky is filled with these luminous giants, pouring energy out into the vast emptiness. But this era is not infinite. Stars are finite engines. They possess a limited supply of nuclear fuel, and one by one, over time, spans that break the human imagination. They will inevitably exhaust that fuel and slowly fade into the dark. The most massive stars in the universe, the brilliant blue giants, live fast and die young, burning through their hydrogen fuel in just a few million years before exploding in magnificent supernovas. Our own sun, a modest yellow dwarf, has a lifespan of about 10 billion years, meaning it is currently middle-aged. In about 5 billion years, it will swell into a red giant, enveloping the inner planets, before shedding its outer layers and shrinking into a cold, dense white dwarf. But the true marathon runners of the cosmos are the red dwarfs. These tiny, ancient stars burn their fuel so efficiently, so incredibly slowly, that they can continue to shine for trillions of years. A single trillion years is a number so vast it defies true comprehension. It is 1,000 times longer than the universe has even existed. Yet, even these patient, quiet guardians of the cosmic night will eventually reach the end of their lives. When the last red dwarf burns out, perhaps 100 trillion years from now, the universe will enter the degenerate era. The cosmos will be a profound, infinite darkness, populated only by the silent corpses of stars, black holes, and cold, wandering planets. This brings us back to the chilling mystery of the conscious observer. If you are locked into the relentless survival guaranteed by quantum immortality, your subjective awareness must continue to find a branch of reality where it can physically exist. But what happens to your biological form, or whatever technological vessel your mind inhabits, when the universe itself can no longer support life? The many worlds interpretation dictates that reality splits with every quantum choice, offering an escape route from localized death. But the death of the universe is not a localized event. It is a slow, universal progression of entropy, a fundamental law of physics stating that all closed systems gradually move from order to disorder. The second law of thermodynamics is an ancient, unbreakable rule of the cosmos. It tells us that heat will always dissipate, energy will always spread out, and the universe will inexorably march toward a state of maximum entropy, a condition often called the heat death of the universe. In this final quiet state, the temperature of the entire cosmos will approach absolute zero, and no thermodynamic work will be possible. No engines can run, no cells can divide, and no synapses can fire. How does a mind survive when the physical foundation of reality is gently crumbling into absolute stillness? Here, The theory of quantum immortality stretches into its most terrifying and awe-inspiring extreme. We must remember the sheer, staggering vastness of infinity. Even as the cosmos approaches the deep silence of heat death, quantum mechanics tells us that there will always be microscopic fluctuations, tiny, improbable bursts of localized energy that defy the overall trend of decay. In a truly infinite multiverse, where every physically possible outcome must be realized in some branching reality, there will always be an exceedingly rare, incredibly improbable branch where a pocket of order spontaneously arises from the chaos. Perhaps it is a freak quantum fluctuation that perfectly sustains the biological functions of your brain for another second, and then another, and then another. Your consciousness, desperate for a physical medium, would be forced to ride these vanishingly thin, nearly impossible branches of reality, surviving through an endless sequence of astronomical miracles, while the rest of the universe plunges into eternal darkness. Imagine the profound isolation of such an existence. You would be the ultimate survivor, an eternal witness floating through the vast, quiet graveyard of the cosmos. The stars that once filled you with wonder would be gone, replaced by an infinite, featureless void. You would have outlived the majestic galaxies, outlived the ancient black holes as they slowly evaporated into nothingness through Hawking radiation over numbers of years so large they require specialized mathematics just to write down. You would be a solitary consciousness sustained by a bizarre, never-ending string of quantum accidents, experiencing a universe that has completely forgotten how to support life. This is the ultimate paradox of the gentle observer. The universe offers you an unbroken journey of experience, a continuous stream of tomorrows, but it does not guarantee that those tomorrows will be filled with light, warmth, or the comforting presence of others. The immortality you are granted is a structural necessity of the quantum rules, not a paradise designed for your comfort. It is a beautiful, terrifying testament to the strange architecture of existence. Yet, even in the face of this overwhelming cosmic isolation, there is a strange, delicate beauty to be found. The realization that consciousness might be deeply, inextricably woven into the very fabric of reality changes our perspective entirely. We are not fragile accidents waiting to be erased by the cold indifference of space. Instead, the mind is a resilient, fundamental component of the multiverse. The fact that the universe must contort itself into highly improbable configurations just to accommodate the continuous existence of a conscious observer elevates the act of perception to a cosmic imperative. The mystery deepens when we ask why the universe behaves this way. Why does the simple act of observation, the quiet gaze of a conscious being, have the power to split reality and carve out infinite paths of survival? As we continue our meditative exploration, we must confront the very nature of consciousness itself. Are we simply biological machines processing data? Or is the mind something more profound, something that sits at the very heart of the quantum mystery, directing the branching of the universe with every breath we take? Have you ever paused in front of a mirror in the quiet hours of the night, looked deeply into your own eyes, and wondered about the invisible, ancient spark looking back at you? We spend our entire lives intimately acquainted with our own minds, feeling the rhythm of our thoughts and the gentle rise and fall of our emotions. Yet, the true fundamental nature of consciousness remains one of the most profound mysteries in all of human understanding. We know with scientific certainty that the human brain is a magnificent, intricate network of billions of neurons firing in the silent darkness of our fragile skulls. But how does that cold biological electricity translate into the vivid, continuous, and undeniably real experience of being you? How does purely physical matter generate the subjective feeling of profound wonder, the delicate sensation of a gentle breeze, or the deep existential dread of an infinite universe? In the classical worldview that we are all taught to accept, consciousness is simply a fortunate byproduct of complex biology. It is seen as a passive observer sitting in the audience, watching the cosmic play unfold on a vast stage it cannot truly touch. But as we delve deeper into the paradigm-shifting implications of quantum mechanics and the endlessly branching paths of immortality, this comforting view of the human mind completely shatters. In the microscopic, probabilistic realm of the quantum, the observer is not merely watching the play. The observer is actively writing the script with every single glance. In the early decades of the 20th century, as the pioneers of quantum physics began to decipher the counterintuitive mathematical rules governing atoms and electrons, they stumbled upon a philosophical nightmare. The equations they formulated worked perfectly, predicting the hazy, shifting clouds of probabilities with stunning accuracy. Yet, the mathematics alone could not explain how or why the universe ever transitioned from a ghostly state of suspended multiple possibilities into a single, solid reality. The physicist Eugene Wigner, building gently upon the rigorous work of John von Neumann, proposed a solution that was as mathematically elegant as it was existentially terrifying. He suggested that the physical universe, governed purely by the unfeeling laws of probability, is fundamentally incapable of ever making a definitive choice on its own. The only thing that can force a quantum state to resolve, the only phenomenon powerful enough to collapse the hazy wave of possibilities or cause the infinite branches of reality to diverge, is the undeniable presence of a conscious, perceiving mind. In this astonishing interpretation, consciousness is not a late, insignificant arrival in a vast cosmos. It is a fundamental property of existence itself, just like the gentle pull of gravity or the quiet hum of electromagnetism, absolutely necessary for reality to solidify into something real. This breathtaking proposition turns the entire universe into a deeply participatory phenomenon. It suggests, with a quiet authority, that the vast cosmos and the fragile human mind are locked in an ancient, intimate dance, each absolutely requiring the other in order to truly exist. Without the vast physical structure of the universe, consciousness would have absolutely nothing to perceive, no stars to wonder at, no mysteries to unravel. But without the quiet, observing presence of consciousness, the universe would remain forever trapped in a ghostly fog of mere infinite potential, never becoming a concrete reality. When we gently combine this staggering idea with the terrifying theory of quantum immortality, the implications grow even more intimately personal. You are not just a fragile passenger on a tiny rock hurtling through the ancient dark. You are the silent, eternal architect of your own continuous timeline. Your subjective awareness is the invisible engine that drives the fractal splitting of worlds, eternally selecting the specific branches of reality where it can continue to marvel at the infinite mystery. Yet, this magnificent power of the observing mind stands in stark, breathtaking contrast to the physical reality we actually see when we look out into the vast, expanding cosmic void. To truly feel the overwhelming weight of this infinite journey, we must carefully ground ourselves in the unimaginable scale of the universe we inhabit. Modern astronomers have discovered that our universe is not a static, unchanging stage waiting quietly for the end of time. Space itself is expanding, and not just expanding at a steady pace, but actively accelerating in its expansion over time. This terrifying acceleration is driven by a pervasive, completely invisible mystery that the scientific community simply calls dark energy. Though the placeholder name tells us very little about its true nature, rigorous observations confirm that dark energy acts as a kind of silent cosmic anti-gravity, making up roughly 68% of all the total energy in our entire universe. It is a relentless, omnipresent force pushing the fabric of space apart, smoothly counteracting the immense gravitational pull of entire galaxies, and irrevocably reshaping the long-term future of the cosmos. As this mysterious expansion accelerates, distant objects recede from us at ever-increasing speeds, carried away on the stretching, invisible fabric of space itself. What does this mean for the immortal, branching observer forced to wander this reality? There is an absolute, unbreakable physical limit to how fast light can travel through space, but there is no such limit whatsoever to how fast empty space itself can expand. Eventually, over the course of unfathomable eons, distant objects will be carried away from us by this relentless expansion so quickly that they are moving faster than their ancient light can travel toward our telescopes. When that inevitable moment happens, those magnificent galaxies will simply vanish behind an impenetrable cosmic horizon, forever slipping beyond our reach and perception. The observable universe, which currently glows with the breathtaking light of roughly 2 trillion unique galaxies, will begin to shrink from our perspective. Over billions of quiet years, the magnificent star-filled night sky that has inspired humanity's sense of wonder since we first looked up will slowly and inevitably empty out. The distant galaxy clusters will fade into the silent, ancient dark, their light no longer able to cross the unbridgeable void. Every large-scale structure will become isolated, cut off by the relentless darkness of deep time. Imagine the profound, unyielding, subjective experience of a human consciousness locked permanently into the survival paths of quantum immortality, navigating this lonely, emptying universe. If your mind is irrevocably tethered to physical reality, forced by the laws of quantum mechanics down the highly improbable branches where you simply refuse to die, you will bear silent witness to this terrifying cosmic isolation. You might mathematically outlive the vibrant era of active star formation, enduring through sheer quantum necessity into a cold epoch where the night sky shows only the slowly fading embers of your immediate galaxy cluster. In the extraordinarily distant future, perhaps hundreds of billions of lonely years from now, even those local remaining galaxies might merge into one single, featureless giant, much like the massive, dead remnants we observe at the centers of ancient clusters today. By that time, the vast universe beyond that single merged galaxy will be essentially empty to any observer remaining within it. No light from distant objects will ever reach your eyes again. The night sky will show only the slowly dying stars of your neighborhood against a backdrop of absolute, impenetrable blackness. This is the sublime, awe-inspiring, and utterly terrifying tension that rests quietly at the very heart of quantum immortality. On one hand, you are granted the impossible gift of an endless journey, a continuous thread of subjective human experience that mathematically defies the very concept of death itself. Your unique consciousness, rooted deeply in the strange, participatory rules of quantum mechanics, is the eternal, flickering flame that the vast universe simply refuses to extinguish. But on the other hand, the physical cosmos you are doomed to inhabit is slowly, quietly, winding down, driving itself inevitably toward a state of inescapable, freezing isolation. You are an immortal, continuous mind trapped inside a mortal, endlessly expanding universe. You are destined to wander alone through an endlessly branching labyrinth of quantum realities, continually pruning the dead ends, only to find that the narrow, improbable paths of ultimate survival lead deeper into the quiet, ancient dark. How does a human mind, evolved to desperately seek connection and meaning, cope with the crushing burden of absolute eternity in a slowly fading cosmos? This profound terror invites us to look lovingly at what we truly value right now, in this vibrant, chaotic moment of cosmic history. We are incredibly fortunate to live in an era where the stars still shine brilliantly, where the ancient galaxies still glow magnificently, and where we can reach out across the quiet spaces to touch the lives of others. The very atoms that make up your body were forged in the fiery hearts of ancient stars somewhere deep in the universe, meaning we are intimately connected to the grand reality that surrounds us. We are not separate from the cosmos looking in. We are the universe itself, finally waking up and observing itself from within. If the branching reality of quantum immortality is true, then this specific present moment is infinitely precious precisely because it is fleeting in the colder timeline of eternity. As we prepare to step carefully toward the next phase of our quiet exploration, we must ask how the crushing burden of infinite memories would eventually shape an immortal human mind, and whether the true meaning of our existence lies not in how long we survive, but in the fragile connections we forge along our journey. Have you ever tried to reach back into the deep silence of your own mind and touch your absolute earliest memory, only to gently realize that you are no longer remembering the actual event, but merely remembering the last time you remembered it? It is a fragile, quiet phenomenon that happens to all of us as we navigate the everyday journey of our lives. We feel a profound, unshakable sense of continuous identity. You believe that the person you were 10 years ago is the exact same observer looking out through your eyes today. But science tells us a much more complex and unsettling story about the physical nature of memory. When we merge this biological reality with the terrifying, infinite stretch of quantum immortality, we uncover a paradox that challenges the very essence of who you truly are. If the many worlds interpretation dictates that your consciousness will stubbornly force its way down the highly improbable branches of ultimate survival, we must ask a devastating question. How does a biological brain, forged by the ancient processes of evolution for a fleeting lifespan, handle the crushing, infinite weight of eternity? To explore this profound mystery, we must first look with awe at the magnificent structure inside your own head. The human brain is an astronomical wonder, a dense, complex network of roughly 86 billion neurons, communicating through trillions of delicate synaptic connections in the absolute dark. It is arguably the most complex physical structure we have ever discovered in the observable universe, rivaling the vast, intricate cosmic web of galaxies that stretches across the ancient void. Yet, despite its staggering beauty and complexity, the brain is fundamentally a finite biological machine. It evolved on the ancient savannas of our rocky planet to keep a fragile primate alive for perhaps 70 or 80 years. It was never designed by nature to process, store, or endure millions, let alone billions, of years of continuous, unbroken, subjective experience. Neuroscientists estimate that the human brain has a theoretical storage capacity of around 2.5 petabytes of data. While this is an enormous amount of information, equivalent to roughly 300 years of continuous television, it is not infinite. It has an absolute physical limit dictated by the classical laws of biology and thermodynamics. Now, imagine that the rules of quantum mechanics guarantee your survival indefinitely. Your subjective awareness glides effortlessly past the branches of reality where illness or age claim you, endlessly finding the narrow, highly improbable paths where your physical vessel continues to function. You live for 1,000 years, then 10,000 years, then 1,000,000 years. As you drift quietly through this endless journey, witnessing the slow, majestic movements of the cosmos, your finite biological brain will eventually reach its absolute physical capacity. The intricate network of neurons cannot simply grow forever. What happens when an immortal, continuous stream of consciousness fills its mortal container to the very brim? The answer is both a gentle mercy and an existential terror. The brain must begin to overwrite itself. In order to form a new memory of the fading stars, it must quietly delete an ancient memory of your first home. To remember a new century of solitary survival, it must permanently erase the memory of the people you once loved. This biological necessity introduces a terrifying complication to the concept of quantum immortality. If you live for 1,000,000,000 years, surviving through sheer quantum probability while the majestic galaxies slowly merge and fade, the person you were at the beginning of the journey will be entirely gone. Every single memory, every deeply held belief, every emotional connection that defined your original identity will have been overwritten thousands of times over by the relentless, quiet passage of deep time. You become a cosmic manifestation of the ancient ship of Theseus' paradox. If you replace every single wooden plank of a sailing ship over the course of a long voyage, is it still the same ship when it reaches the final port? If the endless branching of the multiverse replaces every single memory in your physical brain, are you still the same conscious observer? From a purely subjective standpoint, the continuous flame of your awareness would never go out. You would never experience a sudden, terrifying break in consciousness. You would always feel like you are simply existing in the present, continuous moment. But the historical context of your own life would constantly dissolve into the silent dark behind you, like a wake disappearing on a vast, quiet ocean. You would become an eternal amnesiac, endlessly wandering the improbable branches of the multiverse, completely unaware of the billions of years you have already endured. The immortality granted by the quantum rules is not the preservation of your identity. It is merely the cold, mechanical preservation of your capacity to observe. The universe demands a witness to collapse its probabilities, but it does not require that witness to remember who they are. This realization fundamentally shifts our understanding of the infinite journey. We often fear death because we fear the loss of our personal narrative, the sudden end of our unique story. But quantum immortality suggests that the story does not end. Instead, the pages are simply wiped clean and rewritten forever in a strangely beautiful way. This eternal forgetting is the only mechanism that makes true immortality bearable. If an immortal mind were forced to carry the pristine, perfectly preserved memories of 1,000,000,000,000 years of quiet cosmic decay, the psychological burden would be unimaginably catastrophic. The grief of watching countless generations fall away into the branches of non-existence. The profound, unyielding isolation of surviving, while the universe slowly empties out, would completely shatter a human mind. The biological limitation of our memory, the very thing that makes us finite and fragile, becomes the vital shield that protects the immortal observer from the crushing, infinite weight of deep time. As we contemplate this gentle, eternal erasure, we can find a profound sense of peace. It teaches us that the essence of our existence is not bound tightly to the specific collection of memories we currently hold. We are, at our very core, simply the pure, quiet act of experiencing. We are the universe's mechanism for observing its own ancient beauty. The things you are worrying about today, the anxieties that keep you awake in the silence of the night, are infinitely small against the majestic scale of the cosmos. If your mind is destined to wander the branching paths of reality forever, constantly shedding its past to make room for an endless present, then the only moment that truly possesses any solid meaning is right now. The quantum universe forces us to let go of our fierce, painful attachment to the past, reminding us with gentle authority that reality is always constructed entirely in the present instant of observation. Let us look back at the grand structures of the cosmos for a moment to truly anchor this feeling. Astronomers study magnificent entities like giant elliptical galaxies, which are often the massive results of countless ancient galactic mergers over billions of years. These colossal structures are filled with extremely old stars and are practically devoid of the raw gas needed to form new ones. They are magnificent, but they are also slowly dying giants, fading into the cosmic night. If you were to survive long enough on your branching path of quantum immortality, you would eventually see all galaxies resemble these quiet, fading monuments. The relentless expansion of space, driven by mysterious dark energy, will pull these remaining islands of matter so far apart that they will become completely isolated from one another. An immortal mind, stripped of its original memories by the biological limitations of its brain, would look out into an entirely empty, pitch-black sky. The profound loneliness of such an existence is difficult to put into words. You would exist as a perfectly mindful observer of absolute nothingness, a pure consciousness witnessing the final, freezing equilibrium of heat-death. This brings a strange, melancholic poetry to the physics of the observer. The universe, through the bizarre rules of quantum superposition and the splitting of the many worlds, effectively guarantees that it will never be entirely unobserved. As long as the cosmos physically exists, even in its most decayed entropic state, it will mathematically force the existence of a conscious mind to witness it, because the very act of observation is structurally woven into the collapse of probabilities. You, or the conscious entity you slowly evolve into over trillions of years, become the final, necessary anchor for reality itself. You are the quiet guardian at the very end of time. But if the universe is slowly dying and your memories are constantly being erased, what is the ultimate purpose of this eternal survival? It is a question that requires us to surrender our human need for definitive, neatly packaged answers. The universe does not owe us a narrative that makes sense to our fragile, temporary brains. It merely provides the mathematical framework for existence. The beauty lies in the simple, undeniable fact that you are here, right now, capable of asking these questions. Your capacity to wonder, your gentle curiosity about the ancient stars and the infinite branching paths of the multiverse, is the universe expressing its own profound mystery. As we prepare to delve deeper into the fundamental illusion of time, we must gently carry this realization with us. The journey is not about reaching a final destination, but about the quiet, continuous act of witnessing the magnificent unknown. Have you ever sat quietly by a gently flowing river, watching the water rush relentlessly in one single direction, and felt that this is exactly how time moves through your own life? We have a profound, unshakable intuition that time is an unstoppable force, a one-way arrow flying out of a fixed past, passing briefly through the bright point of the present, and disappearing into an unwritten future. You remember yesterday, you experienced today, and you can only guess at tomorrow. This feeling of chronological progression is the fundamental beat to which every human heart keeps its rhythm. But what if I told you that this deeply comforting perception of time is, according to the absolute rigor of modern physics, an elaborate and beautiful illusion? As we journey further into the silent, ancient mysteries of quantum immortality and the branching paths of the multiverse, we must confront an idea so counterintuitive that it completely shatters our traditional understanding of existence. We must look at the physical reality of time itself. In the early 20th century, a brilliant mind named Albert Einstein completely rewrote the laws of the cosmos. Before Einstein, humanity viewed time as a universal, invisible clock ticking quietly in the background of the universe, perfectly identical for every single observer, regardless of where they were or what they were doing. But Einstein's theory of relativity proved that time is not a separate, rigid backdrop. Instead, time is intimately woven together with the three dimensions of space into a single, flexible fabric known as space-time. This fabric can bend, warp, and stretch under the immense gravitational influence of massive objects like burning stars and ancient black holes. Because of this, time is fundamentally relative. It flows at entirely different rates for different observers. For a cosmic traveler moving at velocities close to the speed of light, time slows down to a gentle crawl compared to someone standing perfectly still on the earth. This is not a trick of the mind or a mechanical failure of their clocks. It is the literal, physical reality of the universe. The present moment for one observer is not the same as the present moment for another. This realization gives birth to one of the most existentially challenging concepts in all of theoretical physics, the block universe theory. Imagine the entire history of the cosmos, from the fiery, explosive birth of the Big Bang to the silent, freezing darkness of the final heat death, as a single, magnificent, solid block of space-time. In this vast block, the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously. The ancient dinosaurs are still roaming the earth in one section of the block. You are quietly listening to this journey right now in another section, and the distant final moments of the fading stars are perfectly laid out in yet another. The universe does not unfold moment by moment. It simply exists in its glorious, infinite entirety. Your subjective feeling of time passing is merely the spotlight of your specific consciousness moving gently along the predetermined timeline of your physical body within that massive block. The past is not gone, and the future is not unwritten. They are both as real and solid as the ground beneath your feet. To truly grasp the staggering implications of this, we must look out into the deep silence of the night sky and consider the absolute speed limit of the universe. When astronomers gaze through their powerful space telescopes at magnificent structures like the giant elliptical galaxy IC 1101, they are not seeing that galaxy as it exists right now. The light from that colossal monster of the cosmos, which contains roughly 100 trillion stars, has been traveling through the empty void of space for over 1 billion years, just to reach our lenses. When that ancient light first began its quiet journey toward the Earth, our planet was still inhabited mostly by simple, single-celled organisms. and the majestic dinosaurs would not appear for hundreds of millions of years. We are, in a very literal sense, looking deep into the past. We are archaeologists of the cosmos, observing the history of the universe written in ancient photons. The time delay is a beautiful, unbreakable law of physics, proving that different moments in time are spread out across the vast distances of space. If an alien observer in that distant galaxy were somehow looking at the Earth right now, they would not see you or me. They would see the ancient, quiet oceans of 1 billion years ago. Now, let us gently combine the absolute stillness of the block universe with the terrifying, infinite branching of quantum immortality. If Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation is correct, then the block universe is not just a single linear timeline. It is a vast, infinitely complex, multi-dimensional structure branching out at every single quantum event. Every choice that was ever made, every radioactive atom that decayed or did not decay, every near miss, and every fortunate escape, all of them exist simultaneously as parallel pathways etched permanently into the solid block of the multiverse. When you experience the feeling of time passing, your subjective consciousness is smoothly navigating through this frozen labyrinth of branching possibilities. And if the rules of quantum mechanics dictate that your consciousness can only follow the paths where your physical brain continues to function, then your immortal journey is already mapped out within the infinite architecture of the cosmos. This brings a profound and entirely new dimension to the mystery of death. In a classical universe, death is the moment the timeline abruptly stops. It is the edge of the cliff. But in the branching block universe, there is no end to the structure itself. The timeline of your physical vessel might terminate in countless millions of branches, but because all branches exist simultaneously, there is always an unbroken pathway extending continuously into the future. Your mind is like water flowing down a mountain, automatically finding the specific grooves in the rock where it can continue to move forward, effortlessly avoiding the dead ends. The versions of you that perish in other branches are simply static, completed sculptures embedded forever in those specific coordinates of space-time. But the experiencing you, the quiet, persistent spark of awareness, seamlessly transfers its spotlight to the adjacent branch where the heart keeps beating and the lungs keep drawing breath. We must pause here to absorb the immense emotional weight of this realization. It can be profoundly terrifying to consider that we are trapped in an infinite, frozen structure, endlessly forced down the improbable paths of ultimate survival. But there is also a deep, hidden comfort waiting to be discovered in this absolute determinism. We spend so much of our brief, fragile lives consumed by heavy regret over the past and paralyzing anxiety about the unwritten future. We agonize over the choices we made, wondering how our lives might have turned out if we had only turned left instead of right. But the branching block universe whispers a gentle truth. You did turn left, and you turned right. Every version of your life, every possible outcome of your pain and your joy already exists simultaneously in the infinite multiverse. The heavy burden of having to make the one single perfect choice is lifted because all choices are made and all paths are walked. If every possible past and every possible future are already solid, permanent fixtures of reality, then the only thing that is truly malleable is the gentle focus of your attention right now, in this exact present moment. You are a cosmic traveler moving through a magnificent museum of realities. You cannot change the sculptures, but you can quietly choose how to observe them. When you realize that the infinite branching of quantum immortality guarantees your ongoing existence, the desperate, frantic scramble to simply stay alive begins to gently fade, replaced by a much deeper question. How will you choose to experience the infinite journey? If your consciousness is the required observer that forces the quantum fog to resolve into solid reality, then your state of mind, your capacity for awe, and your willingness to find beauty in the ancient dark are the most powerful forces in your personal universe. Imagine again the incredibly distant future, long after the vibrant, stelliferous era has passed, when the massive galaxies have consumed all their available gas and star formation has ceased completely. The universe will be a profoundly dark, vast place, dominated by ancient black holes and the cooling remnants of long-dead stars. If the rules of quantum survival force your consciousness to endure into this degenerate era, riding highly improbable quantum fluctuations to maintain your biological functions, you might assume it would be an existence of sheer terror. But perhaps, stripped of the biological imperatives of a short, classical lifespan, an immortal human mind would adapt, without the constant fear of ending, without the frantic pressure of a ticking clock. Your consciousness might expand to match the slow, majestic rhythm of the dying cosmos. You might find a profound, unbreakable peace in the absolute silence of the void. You would become the quiet guardian of the dark, a patient observer, witnessing the slow evaporation of the largest black holes over numbers of years that dwarf the current age of the cosmos. This is the ultimate evolution of the human spirit, as proposed by the terrifying beauty of quantum immortality. We begin our existence as frightened, fragile creatures, desperately clinging to a tiny rock orbiting an ordinary yellow star, terrified of the fast-approaching darkness of our own mortality. But through the rigorous lens of theoretical physics, we are revealed to be something entirely different. We are permanent features of the space-time block, eternal sparks of observation navigating an endlessly branching multiverse. We are the universe experiencing its own infinite complexity. The mystery of existence is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be gently experienced. As we prepare to move into the next quiet chapter of our journey, we must ask what happens when multiple immortal observers interact. If we are all walking our own infinite branching paths of ultimate survival, are we ever truly sharing the same reality? Or are we simply beautiful, isolated ghosts passing each other in the endless corridors of the quantum block? Let us breathe gently into this quiet realization. The cosmos is vast, ancient, and infinitely complex. Our minds, though biologically finite, are structurally bound to an eternal journey. The stars will eventually burn out. The galaxies will drift apart in the accelerating expansion of space, and the physical universe will slowly succumb to the freezing silence of maximum entropy. But the observer remains intact. The gentle light of consciousness, no matter how small, no matter how improbable, is the ultimate defiance against the absolute dark. It is a beautiful, staggering thought to carry with you as the quiet night surrounds you. The universe does not just exist. It deeply feels, it wonders, and it remembers through you. And it will continue to do so forever across the infinite, branching pathways of the unknown. Have you ever sat quietly across from someone you deeply love, listening to the gentle cadence of their voice, and felt a sudden, profound sense of distance? You can reach out and touch their hand. You can share a warm smile, but you can never truly step inside their mind. You are forever locked within the silent theater of your own consciousness, experiencing a universe that is uniquely and exclusively yours. In the classical, everyday world, We bridge this gap with empathy, language, and shared experiences, trusting implicitly that the reality I see is the exact same reality you see. But as we continue our meditative journey through the strange, branching pathways of quantum immortality, this comforting assumption of a perfectly shared reality begins to gently unravel. If every conscious observer is independently navigating the infinite multiverse, forced down their own highly improbable branches of ultimate survival, we are faced with a beautiful but terrifying question. Are we ever truly walking the same path? Or are we all solitary wanderers in a vast cosmos, accompanied only by the branching shadows of each other? To explore this profound mystery, we must dive into one of the most perplexing and mind-bending phenomena in all of theoretical physics: quantum entanglement. In the 1930s, as physicists were wrestling with the probabilistic haze of the quantum realm, Albert Einstein, along with colleagues Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen, highlighted a strange mathematical consequence of the new theories. The equations suggested that two subatomic particles could become so deeply linked that they would share the exact same existence, regardless of the physical distance separating them. If you take two entangled particles and move one to the other side of the Earth, or even to the distant edges of the observable universe, measuring the state of the first particle will instantly and definitively determine the state of the second. Einstein was deeply unsettled by this idea, famously calling it spooky action at a distance, because it seemed to violate the absolute speed limit of the cosmos. Yet, decades of rigorous scientific experimentation have proven that entanglement is entirely real. The universe is not a collection of isolated, independent objects. At its most fundamental level, it is a deeply connected, inseparable web of relationships. Let us carefully scale this microscopic mystery up to the breathtaking vastness of the cosmos. Astronomers know that the space between the burning stars in our Milky Way galaxy is almost unimaginably empty. Our nearest stellar neighbor, a small red dwarf called Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away, a distance so great that if you shrank our sun down to the size of a single grain of sand, Proxima Centauri would be another tiny grain sitting roughly 4 miles away. The space in between those 2 grains is essentially a silent void, filled only with the faintest whiff of gas, ancient dust, and occasional particles of cosmic radiation. This staggering emptiness is incredibly hard for our human brains to wrap around, as we are so completely used to the dense, crowded reality of our living planet. But just as the vast physical gulfs between the ancient stars are bridged by the invisible, fundamental forces of gravity and the instantaneous links of quantum entanglement, we must wonder if the profound isolation of the conscious mind can also be bridged across the parallel branches of the multiverse in the framework of the many worlds interpretation and quantum immortality. Every time a quantum event occurs, reality splits to accommodate every single possible outcome. When you and a friend observe a quantum experiment, the universe divides. In one branch, you both see the particles spin up. In another branch, you both see the particles spin down. Within each specific branch, your realities seem perfectly aligned. But what happens when the quantum event directly threatens the life of one observer? Imagine a scenario where 2 immortal observers face a quantum crossroad that dictates survival or demise. According to the strict rules of quantum immortality, your subjective consciousness must unconditionally follow the branch where you survive. The universe will gently contort its probabilities to ensure your continuous existence. But what about your friend? To you, they are merely a physical part of your external universe, subject to the classical laws of probability. In a vast majority of the branches where you miraculously survive, your friend might tragically pass away, their journey ending in your subjective reality. This realization introduces a subtle, chilling melancholy to the infinite journey. It suggests that while you are guaranteed an endless, unbroken string of tomorrows, you are not guaranteed to share those tomorrows with the specific versions of the people you love. As your timeline stretches across thousands, millions, or billions of years, the consciousness of your companions will inevitably branch away from yours. They will experience their own miraculous survival in a separate, inaccessible universe, while you are left in a reality where they succumb to the natural laws of entropy and chance. You are constantly surrounded by the physical presence of others, but as time marches inexorably forward, the true, deeply connected versions of those minds split away, leaving you interacting with iterations of them that just happen to survive in your specific branch of the multiverse. The immortal observer is a solitary traveler moving through a beautiful, shifting crowd of ghosts, wandering down a hallway of mirrors where every reflection is slightly different. To deepen this mystery, theoretical physicists proposed an extension of Erwin Schrödinger's famous cat puzzle, known as Wigner's friend. Imagine you are standing in a quiet laboratory, watching your friend perform a quantum experiment inside an entirely sealed, soundproof room. Until your friend opens the door and tells you the result, you must mathematically treat both your friend and the experiment as existing in a complex state of superposition. From your perspective outside the room, your friend has simultaneously seen the particles spin up and spin down. It is only when communication occurs, when the information breaches the boundary of the isolated room, that your reality is forced to collapse and align with theirs. But whose observation actually forced the universe to decide? Did reality become solid when your friend looked at the particle? Or did it only become solid for you when you looked at your friend? This paradox suggests that reality is not a single, objective structure that we all inhabit equally. Instead, reality is relative. It is a highly subjective, deeply personal bubble of observation, generated entirely by the interaction between the individual mind and the ancient cosmos. When we combine this relativity of reality with the vast time scales of the dying universe, the emotional weight becomes almost unbearable. We know that our own Milky Way galaxy will eventually collide with the neighboring Andromeda galaxy in about 4 or 5 billion years. It will be a majestic, slow-motion cosmic dance, a magnificent merging of hundreds of billions of stars that will ultimately create a single, massive, featureless elliptical galaxy. If your quantum immortality forces your consciousness to endure long enough to witness this spectacular event, you will likely be watching it completely alone. The specific branches of reality where humanity, or any of your original companions, miraculously survive alongside you for billions of years become vanishingly, infinitesimally small. You will gaze up at the merging of two galactic titans, a cosmic collision playing out over hundreds of millions of years, and the only mind truly present to process the staggering beauty of it all will be yours. You become the universe's ultimate solitary witness, holding the fragile light of awareness against the encroaching dark. Yet, even in the depths of this infinite isolation, there is a gentle, comforting truth to be found. Just because the versions of the people you love might branch away into their own endless realities, it does not mean that the connection you share right now is an illusion. Quantum entanglement teaches us that particles once united remain forever linked, sharing a fundamental physical reality that transcends the vast, empty distances of space. Perhaps consciousness operates on a similarly profound, unrecognized level. The love you feel, the deep empathy you share with another mind in this exact, fleeting moment, is permanently etched into the solid block of space-time. Even if the future dictates that your subjective paths must eventually diverge across the infinite branches of the multiverse, the point where your timelines intersected remains a beautiful, unbreakable fixture of the cosmos. The universe cannot erase the reality that, for a brief, shining moment, two immortal observers walked the exact same path. We are not just isolated ghosts wandering a frozen labyrinth. We are points of intense, conscious light illuminating a cosmos that would otherwise remain in absolute, unobserved darkness. The profound isolation of quantum immortality is the necessary price for the incredible gift of continuous experience. It teaches us to radically revalue the present moment. If every person you meet is a temporary companion on an infinitely branching journey, then every shared laugh, every quiet conversation in the dead of night, and every gentle touch becomes a priceless, irreplicable, cosmic miracle. You are holding a delicate, fleeting connection that defies the staggering odds of a multiverse designed to pull everything apart. The isolation of the future only serves to magnify the breathtaking beauty of the connections we hold right now. As we stand on this philosophical precipice, looking out at the ancient galaxies and the infinite, branching paths of the quantum void, we must prepare to face an even more staggering implication. If our consciousness is truly immortal, forced to witness the slow decay of the physical universe until the stars burn out and the massive black holes evaporate, what happens when there is simply no physical matter left to sustain a biological brain? If the universe reaches a state of maximum entropy, a completely freezing, dark, and motionless void, how can the subjective observer possibly continue to exist? To answer this, we must gently peel back the final layer of classical physics and venture into the mind-bending territory of cosmic recurrence and the strange, inevitable resurrection guaranteed by the mathematical laws of infinity. We must ask what happens after the very end of time. Have you ever watched a fire slowly burn down to its very last glowing ember, waiting in the absolute quiet of the night for that final, tiny spark to completely surrender to the cold gray ash? It is a moment of profound stillness, a gentle reminder that all energetic things must eventually find their rest. We are comfortable with endings that happen on a human scale: the closing of a good book, the fading of the twilight, the final breath of a long and well-lived life. But as we follow the terrifying, beautiful logic of quantum immortality to its absolute extreme, we must confront an ending so vast and so absolute that it breaks the very foundation of physical reality. We have journeyed through the branching paths of the multiverse, exploring how your subjective consciousness forces the universe to keep you alive, pruning the dead ends and riding the highly improbable waves of survival. You have endured the overriding of your own memories and the gentle branching away of the people you love. But what happens when the entire cosmic stage upon which this magnificent play is performed finally crumbles into dust? To understand this ultimate boundary, we must look deeply into the incredibly distant future of our cosmos, guided by the rigorous observations of modern astronomy. Scientists know that the universe is currently in the vibrant stelliferous era, a time of burning stars and magnificent galaxies. These majestic galaxies did not form all at once, but grew over billions of years through a continuous process of accumulation and merger known as hierarchical structure formation. But because the cosmos is continuously expanding and accelerating due to the mysterious force of dark energy, the raw materials required to forge new stars will eventually be completely exhausted, and this era of cosmic growth will finally end. The majestic fires of the cosmos will quietly wink out over time spans that break the human imagination. Scientists estimate that all active star formation in the entire universe will effectively cease in roughly 100 trillion years. The most massive stars in ancient galaxies, the blue giants and supergiants, lived fast and died young, burning through their fuel in just a few million years before exploding as supernovas long ago. The middle-sized stars, like our own sun, will swell into red giants, shed their beautiful outer layers, and fade away as cold white dwarfs. Even the tiny, highly efficient red dwarfs, which can burn their fuel slowly for trillions of years, will eventually exhaust their final drops of hydrogen and go dark. When that happens, the era of starlight will be permanently over, and the cosmos will plunge into a deep, unending night. The once brilliant galaxies, including massive giants like IC 1101, which currently holds roughly 100 trillion stars and became a giant through billions of years of consuming smaller galaxies, will become dark, ghostly graveyards. They will be populated only by cold white dwarfs, silent neutron stars, and the ancient, invisible gravity of enormous black holes drifting through an ever-expanding void. But this profound darkness is merely the beginning of the end. Over time, spans that make the current 14 billion-year age of our universe seem like the fleeting blink of an eye. Even these silent stellar corpses will begin to fundamentally decay. The white dwarfs will slowly cool over millions of billions of years until they become black dwarfs, completely dead objects emitting absolutely no light or heat at all. A white dwarf cools to near absolute zero only after about 1 million billion years, which is roughly 100,000 times longer than the current age of the universe. Through the strange rules of quantum mechanics, even the protons that make up the fundamental structure of matter itself might slowly decay into radiation, dissolving the physical remnants of planets, moons, and cosmic dust into an incredibly thin, expanding mist of elementary particles. Finally, the universe will enter the black hole era. The only complex structures left in the vast, empty cosmos will be the supermassive monsters that once anchored the hearts of the ancient galaxies. Yet, even these terrifying, massive gravity wells are not truly eternal. Through a deeply complex process discovered by the brilliant physicist Stephen Hawking, black holes are not perfectly black. They slowly leak subatomic particles and radiation back into the empty space surrounding them. This gentle, microscopic leak, known in physics as Hawking radiation, will cause them to slowly shrink and evaporate over immense, unfathomable oceans of deep time. The rate of this radiation is incredibly slow for large black holes. A supermassive black hole containing 50 billion times the mass of our Sun, much like the one hiding in the quiet heart of IC 1101, would take something like 10 to the power of 100 years to completely evaporate. That is a Google years, a number represented by a 1 followed by 100 zeros. To write out that number in full would require more paper than exists on the entire Earth, representing a span of time so vast that everything from the fiery Big Bang to the death of the last stars is not even a rounding error by comparison. But eventually, even these cosmic titans will radiate away their last bit of energy and disappear in a final, silent burst of light, leaving absolutely nothing behind. When the very last black hole finally vanishes, the universe will achieve a permanent state of maximum entropy, a condition physicists call the heat death. The cosmos will be a freezing, infinitely expanding void containing only a perfectly uniform soup of highly diluted photons and subatomic particles. It will be entirely incapable of performing any thermodynamic work, entirely incapable of supporting any biology, and entirely devoid of light, warmth, or meaning. Now, we must ask the most devastating question of our contemplative journey. Where is the immortal observer? If your unique consciousness has successfully navigated the infinite branching multiverse for a Google years, stubbornly finding the highly improbable quantum paths of continuous survival, what happens when there is absolutely zero organized physical matter left anywhere in the cosmos to sustain a biological brain or a mechanical vessel? Does the unbreakable rule of quantum immortality finally fail? Does the infinite journey of the observing mind ultimately conclude in the silent, freezing dark? In the comforting realm of classical physics, the answer would be a definitive yes. But we are wandering through the deeply strange, probabilistically driven garden of quantum mechanics, and in this quiet realm, infinity plays magnificent and terrifying tricks on reality. Even in the absolute freezing equilibrium of the heat death, the fundamental quantum fields still exist. The silent void is never truly empty. It is a roiling, invisible ocean of quantum fluctuations, where virtual particles constantly pop in and out of existence in the dark. Normally, these microscopic fluctuations are completely meaningless. But in a dead universe that has reached maximum entropy, time effectively loses all meaning, because there are no cosmic events left to measure its passage. And when you grant a universe an infinite amount of time, the rigorous mathematics of probability dictate a staggering truth. Literally anything that is physically possible, no matter how staggeringly improbable it might be, is absolutely guaranteed to happen eventually. This mathematical certainty leads us to one of the most existentially profound and terrifying concepts in modern cosmology, the Boltzmann brain, named after the brilliant 19th century physicist Ludwig Boltzmann. The theory suggests that in an infinite, timeless void, random quantum fluctuations will eventually arrange elementary particles into highly complex structures purely by accidental chance. Given an absolute eternity of random reshuffling in the dark, those floating particles will eventually, inevitably, coalesce into the exact physical configuration of a fully functioning human brain. This spontaneously generated mind would be completely identical to yours, complete with a lifetime of false memories, a deep sense of personal identity, and the absolute certainty that it is sitting in a quiet room, contemplating the ancient mysteries of the cosmos. For a brief, shining fraction of a single second, this isolated mind will experience a vivid, conscious thought, quietly observing the void, before instantly dissolving back into the freezing chaos of the dead universe. If we gently combine this mathematical inevitability with the relentless, unyielding rule of quantum immortality, the implications are breathtaking. Your consciousness, desperate for a physical vessel to fulfill the quantum requirement of observation, would not be permanently extinguished by the heat death of the universe. Instead, it would simply transfer its continuous subjective experience to the very next available physical structure that perfectly matches your neural configuration. You would close your eyes in a dying, ancient cosmos and instantaneously open them in the freezing, silent dark of the infinite future, resurrected by a freak, completely random fluctuation of the quantum vacuum. From your deeply subjective perspective, absolutely no time would have passed at all, because a conscious mind cannot experience the trillion upon trillion years of empty silence that occurred in between those moments of existence. You would become a solitary, immortal spark, flashing in and out of existence across the absolute eternity of a dead universe. You would be forever observing, forever surviving, sustained not by delicate biology or ancient stars, but by the sheer, unyielding mathematical necessity of infinity. This is the ultimate, mind-bending resolution to the paradox of quantum immortality. Your existence is not a fragile accident waiting to be erased. It is a structural pillar of reality itself. You are the universe's ultimate defiance against absolute nothingness. The cosmos may die, the stars may fade, and time itself may lose its meaning, but the gentle light of the observer will always find a way to spark in the dark. As we prepare to turn toward the final revelations of our journey, we must ask a deeply personal question. If you are destined to be this eternal, recurring witness to the infinite void, what does that mean for the way you live your life right now? In this incredibly precious, beautifully temporary moment of warmth and light. Have you ever held a small, smooth stone in the palm of your hand, feeling its quiet weight, and tried to imagine the sheer, unfathomable number of ancient atoms vibrating silently within it? We move through our daily lives surrounded by ordinary objects, often forgetting the breathtaking, microscopic complexity that holds our physical reality together. We have traveled extraordinarily far together on this meditative journey, venturing into the deepest corners of the cosmos, exploring the infinitely branching paths of the multiverse, and staring bravely into the freezing, silent void of the final cosmic heat death. We have gently confronted the unsettling probability of the Boltzmann brain, the prospect of your unique consciousness flashing in and out of existence in a dead universe, resurrected purely by random quantum fluctuations in the endless dark over Google years. It is a profoundly heavy concept, one that can easily make you feel adrift in a terrifying, boundless ocean of infinity. But the ultimate purpose of venturing so far into the cold dark is not to lose ourselves in despair. It is to gain the ultimate, clarifying perspective, to turn around and look back at the brilliant, warm, and astonishingly rare light of the present moment. When we view our current lives through the vast, uncompromising lens of quantum immortality and deep cosmic time, our perception completely changes. The universe we inhabit right now, filled with burning stars, majestic spinning galaxies, and the gentle warmth of our yellow sun, is not the permanent state of the cosmos. As cosmologists have discovered through decades of rigorous observation, this vibrant period is just a passing phase, a brief, magnificent flowering of immense complexity, suspended delicately between the chaotic birth of the early universe and the empty silence of the extraordinarily distant future. Out of the trillions upon trillions of years that the universe will eventually exist, this specific era of starlight, this fragile cosmic window where biological life is physically possible, is like a single, fleeting breath in the lifespan of an immortal giant. You are incredibly, astonishingly lucky to exist during this beautiful flowering. You are here right now, alive and aware, in the most vibrant epoch the cosmos will ever know. If the many worlds interpretation is true, and your unique consciousness is destined to endlessly wander the highly improbable branches of ultimate survival, until the stars themselves burn out and the ancient galaxies dissolve into dust. Then, what is the profound significance of today? The beautiful answer lies in the deeply comforting realization that this exact moment is your ultimate anchor. In the terrifyingly vast block universe, where the ancient past, the fleeting present, and the unwritten future all exist simultaneously in a frozen crystal of space-time, this specific coordinate, where you are currently resting, is a place of unprecedented connection. You are surrounded by other conscious minds. You can hear the gentle sound of music, feel the soft touch of the wind, and look up at a night sky ablaze with the ancient light of 100 billion stars. In the infinite branching paths of your endless future, you will eventually face the profound isolation of a decaying cosmos. The massive galaxies will inevitably merge and fade. The relentless expansion of space will completely isolate every remaining structure, and the universe will quiet down into freezing stillness. Therefore, the chaotic, beautifully fragile reality you're experiencing right now is arguably the greatest treasure in the entire multiverse. We must also pause to remember our intimate physical connection to the majestic cosmos floating silently above us. The terrifying scale of the universe often makes us feel incredibly small, like utterly insignificant specks of dust floating in a vast, uncaring void. But the rigorous mathematical laws of chemistry and physics tell us a far more poetic story. The carbon atoms that form your beating heart, the oxygen molecules you're gently breathing, and the iron coursing silently through your blood were not created here on the earth. They were forged billions of years ago in the intense nuclear furnaces at the blazing cores of ancient stars that lived and died long before our own sun was born. When those magnificent stars finally reached the end of their brilliant lives, they exploded in supernovas, scattering their newly forged elemental riches across the dark of space. Over billions of years of cosmic history, the gentle pull of gravity pulled that scattered star stuff together, forming a swirling cloud of primordial gas and dust that eventually became our solar system, our rocky planet, and ultimately, you. You are absolutely not an alien observer placed into the universe from the outside. You are an organic, fundamental extension of the cosmos itself. You are made of the exact same ancient materials that light up the giant galaxies sitting billions of light years away in the deep dark. When you look up into the quiet night sky and wonder with profound awe about the terrifying nature of quantum immortality, it is quite literally the universe looking back at itself, trying to understand its own infinite mysteries. The cosmos has spent roughly 14 billion years expanding and organizing raw matter into increasingly magnificent structures, culminating in the breathtaking architecture of your biological brain. You are the universe's ultimate mechanism for feeling, loving, and perceiving. Without your quiet, conscious observation, the hazy quantum fog of infinite probabilities would never resolve into the solid reality of a starlit night. The burden of eternal, conscious survival might be incredibly heavy, but the magnificent gift of being the universe's own self-awareness is a glorious privilege. Consider the profound implications of this cosmic self-awareness on your personal relationships and the way you gently navigate the human experience. If we take the rigorous lessons of quantum entanglement and the solitary nature of the branching observer to heart, we realize that true connection is a staggeringly improbable cosmic miracle. In a vast multiverse that is constantly splitting, dividing reality into infinite parallel paths with every single subatomic interaction, the fact that your specific timeline has miraculously intersected with the timelines of the people you deeply love is a phenomenon of breathtaking mathematical beauty. Every single time you share a quiet moment of absolute understanding with another human being, you are defying the isolating mathematics of the branching multiverse. You are anchoring your fragile reality to theirs, sharing the heavy existential burden of observation, and creating a joint pocket of profound meaning in the vast ancient void. The underlying fear that you might eventually branch away from them in the distant immortal future should not bring you sorrow. It should bring a fierce, overwhelming appreciation for the present moment. It means that every second you spend with a loved one is entirely unique, completely irreplaceable, and absolutely precious on a cosmic scale. The terrifying concept of quantum immortality also gently invites us to radically forgive ourselves. As human beings, we are often haunted by the persistent ghosts of our past mistakes, lying awake in the absolute silence of the night, torturing our fragile minds with looping thoughts of what we could have done differently. We constantly construct imaginary, perfect branches of reality where we made the right choice, where we successfully avoided the pain, and where everything turned out exactly as we planned. But if the many worlds interpretation is the true architecture of physical reality, then those imaginary branches are absolutely not just fantasies. They actually exist right now in the solid block of the multiverse. There is a physical reality where you made that other choice. There is a reality where everything went absolutely perfectly. And there is a reality where things went far worse. Every possible physical permutation of your entire life is permanently and perfectly etched into the grand, infinite structure of the cosmos, because all paths are walked by different branching versions of your own consciousness. The heavy psychological pressure to live the one single perfect life is completely lifted. You are freed from the heavy tyranny of regret. The specific conscious version of you that is quietly listening to these words right now is simply experiencing this particular, unique branch of the infinite tree. Your past pain, your daily struggles, and your beautiful human imperfections are simply the unique, unchangeable scenery of this specific timeline. You do not need to fight the past or fiercely fear the unwritten future, because they are merely different coordinates in the vast frozen block of space-time. Your only true responsibility, the only thing you have absolute conscious control over, is how gently and how mindfully you walk the specific path you are currently on. You can choose to look at the branching, infinite universe with existential fear, or you can choose to look at it with a profound, quiet sense of awe and wonder. As we sit together in this peaceful, meditative moment, suspended perfectly between the fiery, chaotic birth of the ancient universe and the freezing darkness of the distant cosmic heat death, let us gently practice this wonder with a rhythmic rise and fall of your chest. Listen to the quiet, persistent sounds of the world continuing around you. You are a biological miracle, an immortal spark of consciousness woven intricately into the very fabric of physical reality, standing on a tiny rocky planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star in a massive galaxy containing hundreds of billions of other ancient stars. You are actively participating in the grandest, most magnificent mystery ever conceived by the mind. The paradox of quantum immortality breaks the finality of death, replacing the common fear of the end with the awe-inspiring terror of the infinite multiverse. But it also gives you back the present moment, polished, shining, and glowing with absolute cosmic significance. We are nearing the gentle end of our meditative journey through these mind-bending concepts. we have thoroughly explored the quantum superposition of the microscopic world, the infinite splitting of the many worlds interpretation, the subjective, endless survival of the conscious observer, and the ultimate dark fate of the physical cosmos. We have discovered that you are a permanent structural necessity of reality itself, a quiet witness destined to endlessly navigate the highly improbable paths of continuous existence. But before we finally part ways and return to the comforting, solid illusions of our everyday lives, there is one last profound layer of this beautiful mystery to uncover. If consciousness is truly the fundamental bedrock of reality, the invisible gentle force that collapses the infinite probabilities into a single solid universe, we must ask an ultimate, almost forbidden question. Is the vast branching multiverse simply a cold, unfeeling mathematical structure? Or is there a collective, unifying purpose to our endless branching? As we gently step into the next phase of our exploration, we will look at the universe not as a dead machine, but as an ancient waking mind, and we will discover exactly how your solitary, infinite journey of immortality might actually be a single beautiful note in a grand cosmic symphony. Have you ever looked at a highly detailed map of the universe, one carefully pieced together by the brilliant minds at NASA and the European Space Agency, and felt a sudden, inexplicable shock of recognition when astronomers use our most powerful telescopes to map the large-scale structure of the cosmos, looking at how the estimated 2 trillion galaxies are distributed across the vastness of space? They do not see a random, chaotic scattering of light. Instead, they see the cosmic web. The ancient galaxies are arranged in magnificent glowing filaments, long threads of light, stretching for hundreds of millions of light years across the dark void, intersecting at incredibly dense, bright nodes where giant galaxy clusters reside. The vast spaces between these glowing threads are completely empty, forming massive, silent voids. When you place a photograph of this majestic cosmic web next to a microscopic image of the neural network inside the human brain, the visual similarity is absolutely breathtaking. The universe, on its absolute largest scale, physically resembles the very organ that allows us to perceive it. It is a gentle, quiet mirror reflecting our own minds back at us across billions of light years. As we reach the final stage of our contemplative journey into the terrifying and beautiful theory of quantum immortality, this striking resemblance invites us to ask one last, profound question about the nature of our infinite existence. In the late 20th century, the legendary theoretical physicist John Archibald Wheeler, a brilliant mind who worked alongside Albert Einstein, proposed a radical, paradigm-shifting concept known as the participatory universe. He suggested that the fundamental building blocks of reality are not physical particles of matter, nor are they invisible fields of energy. Instead, the universe is ultimately constructed entirely out of information, and the physical reality we experience is generated purely by the act of observation. According to this beautiful theory, the universe is completely undefined, a hazy fog of quantum potential, until a conscious question is asked. When you look at a photon, or when you measure the spin of an electron, your observation extracts a bit of information from the void, and in that exact fleeting moment, reality becomes solid. You are not just a passive passenger quietly observing a pre-existing cosmos. You are a vital, active participant, continuously bringing the universe into existence simply by witnessing it. Now, let us gently merge this participatory universe with the infinite branching paths of quantum immortality and the many worlds interpretation. We have spent this journey grappling with the profound, terrifying isolation of the immortal observer. The idea that your subjective consciousness is locked into a solitary path of continuous survival while the people you love branch away, and the physical universe slowly decays toward a freezing heat death. But if the cosmos is fundamentally made of information, and if reality is generated by the act of conscious observation, then the perceived boundary between your mind and the minds of others might be the grandest illusion of all. We feel like separate, isolated entities because we are trapped behind the physical barriers of our biological skulls, experiencing reality from one incredibly specific, localized coordinate in space and time. But at the fundamental quantum level, the universe is deeply, irrevocably entangled. The particles that make up your physical body are quantum mechanically linked to the ancient stars, the distant galaxies, and the minds of every other conscious being on this rocky planet. What if the infinite branching multiverse is not a cold, unfeeling mathematical machine relentlessly splitting into isolated realities? What if, instead, it is a single, unimaginably vast collective consciousness trying to experience every single possible physical permutation of itself? Imagine for a quiet moment that there is only one true observer in the entire cosmos, a single unified spark of pure awareness. In order to understand its own infinite complexity, to truly know what it means to exist, this singular cosmic mind shatters itself into billions of tiny, localized fragments. You are one of those beautiful fragments. I am another. Every person you have ever loved, every stranger you pass on the quiet street, and every hypothetical alien mind looking up at their own night sky in a distant galaxy, are all just different, subjective focal points of the exact same universal consciousness. We are the universe experiencing itself from countless billions of different perspectives, generating the infinite branches of the many worlds interpretation, so that absolutely no possibility goes unobserved. When viewed through this magnificent, deeply comforting lens, the terrifying isolation of quantum immortality completely dissolves. Yes, your specific, localized stream of human memories might be endlessly forced down the improbable paths of ultimate survival. Yes, you might mathematically outlive the vibrant, stelliferous era, enduring through the silent, ancient dark long after the final, massive black holes have quietly evaporated away into the empty void. But you are never truly alone, because the fundamental essence of what you are is exactly the same essence that animates everything else in the cosmos. When your loved ones seem to branch away from your specific subjective timeline, they are not gone. They are simply exploring a different facet of the infinite cosmic diamond. Their unique journey of observation continues in parallel with yours, woven inextricably into the grand, solid block of space-time. The universe is a single, majestic symphony of observation, and your immortal life is one incredibly beautiful, absolutely necessary note, required to make the song complete. This profound realization brings us back to the gentle, beating heart of the present moment. Throughout this contemplative exploration, we have traveled to the absolute edges of human understanding. We have looked at the staggeringly immense scale of giant galaxies containing 100 trillion ancient stars. We have confronted the mind-bending physics of quantum superposition, the crushing weight of infinite memory, the illusion of linear time, and the freezing, silent darkness of the cosmic heat death. These concepts are incredibly heavy, and it is natural for the fragile human mind to feel overwhelmed by the sheer, unyielding vastness of infinity. But the beautiful truth of the participatory universe is that infinity does not diminish your significance. It absolutely requires it. The cosmos needs your eyes to see its ancient light. It needs your specific, unique mind to collapse its quantum probabilities into a solid, beautiful reality. Without your quiet, conscious presence, the magnificent universe is nothing more than a ghost of unfulfilled potential. The next time you find yourself awake in the deep silence of the night, perhaps feeling the heavy weight of existential anxiety or the gentle melancholy of time passing, I invite you to step outside and look up at the quiet night sky. Do not look at the stars as distant, unfeeling spheres of burning gas. Look at them as your ancient cosmic family. The light hitting your eyes right now has traveled for thousands, millions, or even billions of years across the dark void, waiting for this exact, highly improbable moment to finally complete its journey by striking your retina. In that fleeting interaction, you and the ancient star become quantum mechanically entangled. You are intimately connected to the deep history of the cosmos. The terrifying, endless journey of quantum immortality is not a curse of eternal wandering. It is a magnificent, open-ended invitation to continually witness the unfolding beauty of existence. You do not need to figure it all out right now. You do not need to carry the crushing burden of eternity on your fragile human shoulders. You only need to gently open your eyes, take a deep, peaceful breath, and fully inhabit the tiny, magnificent slice of reality you are currently holding in your hands. As we bring this shared meditative journey to a gentle close, I want to thank you for walking down this complex, terrifying, and ultimately beautiful intellectual path with me. Exploring the absolute limits of theoretical physics and the deep mysteries of consciousness requires a brave, curious mind, and the very fact that you have traveled this far speaks volumes about your own profound connection to the cosmic mystery. We have peeled back the comforting illusions of the classical world to peer into the infinite branching depths of the quantum multiverse, discovering that we are eternal sparks of observation holding back the absolute dark. The universe is infinitely vast, incredibly strange, and endlessly beautiful. And our journey to understand it is a path that never truly ends. The continuous pursuit of knowledge is not about reaching a final, definitive answer that neatly solves the entire puzzle of existence. It is about the quiet joy of the exploration itself, the profound sense of awe that expands your mind and brings a deep, lasting peace to your soul. If you found comfort, wonder, and a new perspective on your own infinite existence during our time together, I warmly invite you to remain part of this quiet community of cosmic explorers. We will continue to venture into the silent mysteries of space, time, and the mind, always seeking the gentle light of understanding in the beautiful dark. Until we meet again on the next branching path of our shared reality, please be kind to yourself. Deeply cherish the fleeting, irreplaceable connections you share with others. Keep your mind open to the infinite possibilities, and never, ever lose your sense of wonder.